Well, can I just comment on Mr. Salmon's letter, email?
Yes, please.
From what, and I'm no legislative lawyer. I don't understand, I'm not saying I know this all, but if it's following the language that the McCain language from the NDAA from last year, or the end of the year before, it is going to apply to people, as Elizabeth points out, who have not had an EA, environmental assessment, but more importantly is what it purports to want to do, which is to engage the FAA and sort of relook at things, right?
Yeah.
And so in that case, we are already doing that. Our FAA initiative, our NorCal initiative, is doing exactly what that bill anticipates. So, or that amendment anticipates. So we are already fully engaged in doing that reassessment of the next gen. That's how I view it.
But ours is on a direct relationship with the FAA, and there's not like a Senate bill or congressional bill that has been floated, or is there? Because the Congresswomen have put forth a couple of proposed bills, right, Kathleen?
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
I'm not either.
The
what?
There's the Community Act.
The Community Act.
Which,
the Community Act, yeah. That's one of the ones that's been submitted. And they'll do it's a positive bill, yes. But it doesn't do what this amendment.
Right. I'm sorry, I had stepped out a minute, and I actually
Give your name.
from New York who submitted things for Senator Schumer.
Give your name, honey.
Oh, my name is Jennifer Landison, and I'm a member of the public, and I was here at the earlier meeting in May, and I offered to bring in any input from other groups around the country who are doing the thing. So I'm going to take this opportunity to just report, and I wanted to get an okay from somebody in New York who's putting input to their senators. And sorry, I was just a couple of minutes late, but I think the bill that Michael Salmon, who I had an opportunity to chat with, is referring to is the Senate bill.
Yes, 1405.
And that's the more urgent situation, which is also what we heard from New York. Ultimately, and I agree with Kathleen, what is kind of the idea of what is we want to put it, what Salmon proposes is what we're already doing here. However, it doesn't actually get what we need, which is a lot of the issues related to an actual assessment of what really happened once you have identified a problem. And so Salmon's idea is, first of all, we can't just live with an amendment that only takes care of people who did not have an environmental assessment. It's really for the benefit of all that this should apply to action implementation, which present a significant or a problem. And although we've had that opportunity, which is to be determined yet, what the outcome is, the next step is to have an assessment of what actually happened. And that is the piece which he wanted to elaborate on. I don't know what email he sent you guys. So I just wanted to interject that the outcome is what we really want to focus on to help everyone experiencing the problem, and also to help our situation to make sure that it gets done right.
Okay. I might say that I just was able to log on, and in my email box 3 minutes ago, there's another email from Salmon.
Okay.
That it's probably on everybody else's email at this point.
I'll try to get to New York.
10:13.
Yeah, with your own iPad. All right.
I'll print out some copies.
Okay. So in essence, he's saying the Los Angeles Roundtable is going to put legislative issues on its agenda for September. S320, S1405. and they're wanting us to
14.
lobby on this and maybe bring it up for our members to look at. So, but Kathleen, you have, maybe we could just kind of go back just a little bit. Can I just go back and ask Kathleen if she has any update about FAA's response?
Yeah.
Because I don't have any information.
I'm sorry, Elizabeth, update on what? I missed that.
Oh, FAA's response to us? It's now July.
Oh, the infamous question, yes. No, I have no update. That's the simplest answer.
Congresswoman Spears' office has no update.
Trust me, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, I have everybody's email, always.
Yeah.
I will I promise you, Elizabeth, you will be the first. The roundtable.
You're awesome,
Okay,
Kathleen. Thank you.
Really, I'm in all seriousness, I know who's got, who I need to take care of, and you guys have been so patient. I just, no.
Yeah. Crazy.
So on that, can I ask?
Yes, Sue. Actually, Janet is the chair.
That's okay. Go ahead,
and
Sue.
You're the vice.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much. So Kathleen and everybody, all of you chime in. I was just wondering if for ourselves and our next RT meeting, if you could give a summary of where our legislators have gone and where we are and any projections you're willing to make. Would that be reasonable?
I'm sure you mean with regard to FAA and aviation noise issues. So
Yes, you're kind of focused.
A summary of where they are, what positions they're taking?
Yeah, so that, because we do have new members on our, roundtable, and also, being in a city of 38,000, no matter how many times we mention things in public, there's always a pretty good number that feel like we've never said it before, ever. So I think it might be a good idea.
Okay, so I'm fine. I just want to, and maybe you can just clarify for me. So a summary of the positions of Congresswoman Spear, and I hesitate to represent the positions of like Congresswoman Eshoo. So I'm not sure how that would be, although I can certainly tell you whether or not she signed on to a bill that's public knowledge, and I can do that, but I'd hesitate to do much more than that with regard to another Congress member.
Right.
So a summary of what they've introduced,
Well,
what
I'm
they're
kind of
supporting.
fleshing it out. I'm fleshing it out right now with my fellow legislators here. That's just a thought that came across me as because of the new members, and because there's always a certain amount in community that are sure that we didn't do something, and we're so used to what we did do that maybe we're missing how to explain where we are in the process. So I was just thinking that they would rather hear it from you than from us, I think.
Okay, okay.
This is open for discussion here.
So on their website, they have their sponsored bills. I mean, we could kind of also do research on that.
We can do research. Yeah.
But I think we could beef up the website a little bit more. So if there's something else you'd like to see on the website, we added the legislation, but there's also the problem is, for example, and I'm going to go off topic here, but not too far. On the reauthorization bill, the FAA reauthorization bill, I can tell you that one important element, as everybody knows, is the privatization of the ATC system that's being suggested. And I can tell you that as of this moment, the Congresswoman absolutely opposes privatization. But until the vote is actually taken, there could be an amendment to come in that would change something about that. I'm not saying there would be, but I'm just saying that is an example. So even if we give positions, it's always with that caveat that things could possibly change, however remotely that would be. So I think that's an important consideration, that when we put things on our website, people don't think that it's a done deal.
Yes.
Right, and I'm an old fogey, so I hate to be a pest, but there's a lot of old fogies like me that to go to the website is like killing me. And even when I do go there, I may not really go through the whole website correctly.
Okay, so
Okay, well, maybe offline you could give me an idea of what we could do to improve it. It's,
Well, I think we're
accessibility.
fishing it out right now here with the other legislators.
okay, so for just a second, Kathleen, this is Janet talking. That was really good to hear what you just said about the Congresswoman opposes the privatization and this bill has it in there, because as we get excited about there's a potential of bills moving forward that can ultimately help us. If there's something in there that the Congresswoman will not support, then we need to take a step back and work with her to see what that entails, I think. Because otherwise, if we all go off and start supporting something that sounds good, to me, it sounds like we would be doing a disservice to the support we're looking from her. Am I saying the right thing? I mean, she's not necessarily going to support this bill if that's still in there. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, the Senate bill does not.
I'm asking her. Okay. Kathleen?
Yeah, I mean, what's in the Senate bill is, I mean, it's hard to say this, but it's so far away from being considered by our Congresswoman that it's hard to know what it will look like when it gets there.
Okay.
If that makes sense. You know,
That makes a lot of sense.
so a lot of this, it sounds like hedging, but it's not. It's that things are in such a state of flux throughout the process that it's hard to know. But if you see an amendment that you like to the Senate bill, you know, and you feel comfortable that it's, you know, there's no, you know, no, how do I say this? No unintended consequences can flow from it, which is always my big concern on reacting to something that sounds really good on the face of it, and then I think, well, what's the real, you know, is there some kind of agenda behind it that I don't know about? Not this bill in particular, I'm talking in general. So I think that's important to know, and you know, and if it's sponsored by a given person, and you want to research, you know, what his or her background is and what they're what they've supported in the past, and does this sound like something that's going to work? You know, I don't know anything about this bill other than that's filed online, and you know.
Okay, that helps a lot. We have a question from Ann.
Actually, I was just going to say, with Sue's comments about updating the public, the difference is we now have it videotaped, and if Kathleen did do a presentation and we made sure that the camera was working really well, we could always do that as a shorter YouTube thing too, if that would help the public. Some public read, some public listen.
Oh, interesting.
That could be interesting.
Yeah.
You can never keep up with legislation though. The nature of the beast is it changes all the time.
Yeah, and it's so nuanced in a lot of ways that it's hard to summarize and you know, encapsulate the whole thing. But we could talk about it offline, and if you want to go into detail, see how you want to do it, or maybe I just do a little written report for you every time. That might be even better. That's something that can be spread around. I don't know.
That would help.
Whatever.
The other question is, do we have a consultant, Mr. Cook? Correct? Would he be a person?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And that would allow you to get, you know, a broader picture of they're usually more in touch with what's going on around the country with the other legislators, the other senators and members. They will have more information about that. So that's a good idea.
Mr. Cook, you're on the line.
I am, and I have no problem looking into that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to put that down that you are going to research that. Thank you.
It would be nice to have some of this information for our August 2nd meeting. Isn't it August 2nd?
Yes.
Yes. Do you think that would be possible for you to be prepared for that, Justin?
I don't see any issues with that.
Okay. So I think if you and I and James could and maybe Janet or whoever wants to talk offline about some specifics, and it would be really helpful to have that for our August.
Sure. No problem.
Thank you.
Anything else? Janet?
I think that's
Deborah.
Deb, I'm sorry. I didn't see your hand, so sorry.
That's okay. So it appears to me that it would be, it does not hurt to use the opportunity to re-engage with our senators and say, here are our issues and concerns again, which are the same as these issues for other LA, whoever, and and consolidate those issues. Make sure that we get our, say, top 3 things that is consistent, and have a list of the other senators with us. Say these other senators are also being contacted by their constituents who are also concerned. We're not telling you which way to vote on this particular bill, because I have not read the whole bill, and so I'm not comfortable with saying take a yes or no at this point. But while you are looking at it and your staff is looking at it seriously, these are concerns of all the constituents of all of these Senate areas or states.
Make sure it's included in that.
And make sure that we reach out to all of them.
Very good idea.
And
Yeah.
with, and all, Republican, Democrat, Independents, whoever they are. And that is a more positive step than saying we don't like this or we don't like that about this.
Yeah. When you're looking at it, look at it through the lens of these issues that are critically
These are important to our constituents, your constituents, and others as well. So you might want to look at this collectively with your other colleagues.
That makes a lot of sense. And before I go to Ann, Mr. Cook, could you keep that in mind when you're reading through that piece of legislation?
No problem.
Thank you. Ann, you had
This is Ann from City of Millbrae, and welcome. I know that Airport Noise Roundtable is really only noise, and I haven't read the legislation either, but if it's dealing with airport-related issues that are not strictly noise-related, that's out of our charter, but it's hard for me to ignore it. So what do you all recommend, or is that just something city by city might want to do? So, for example, air pollutants and potential water pollutants. I know it's way out of airport noise. I understand that, but is there a way that we can at least consider? So, for example, if you're running your APUs a lot, you're spewing out all that fuel, those
But I think, to your point, I think a lot of the legislation actually collectively, some of the ones that I pulled up and read, a lot of them are dealing exactly with that. It's not just, they've taken the broader picture, even though our committee says, roundtable airport noise, I think it behooves us to also look at that in the legislation, because they're all, I pulled up a lot of bills, and it's all encompassed.
Okay.
Kathleen, am I wrong on that?
There are so many so many bills that take into so many subjects. That's what I'm concerned about, is that you like one section and you write a letter about it, and you don't know what you've really signed on for by supporting it. I mean, truly.
There's a lot.
You almost need, I think the idea that's been, and I apologize because I don't know everybody's voices yet, so I'm not sure who was always speaking, but someone who suggested, to say, hey, look at this bill, and it's got some good stuff in it, and we support this good stuff in it. Maybe not the whole bill, when you write to your senators. I think that's and it's a gracious way to do it. It's like saying, we know, we know that you know your stuff, and we just want to point out that this seems to be an important aspect of the bill that would help us or whoever. Yeah, I think that's great.
I think
that was Deborah that said that.
Gordon from Woodside, and I think that allows us to be, I don't know about gracious, but it allows us to give positive input on issues that are important to us, but does not give the opportunity to be discounted because they say, well, yeah, but you didn't consider that this will make us unsafe, or this will cause.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, does that help, Ann?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go ahead and, are we good with that topic? Any other? One more, okay.
To clarify that the Senate bill does not have privatization in it. And I have not read through it all,
Okay.
but I called Michael Salmon because he has repeated that over and over again, that the House, the congressional bill, is possibly because it's mostly supported by the Democratic Congress members, is not going to probably yield a lot for us, but it's a place to do good work. The opportunity is to do outreach with our senators.
Okay.
Now, this is out of committee, and I'm not an expert at any of this. I'm sort of repeating some of the things that I've heard, which means that the opportunity that the senators will have is on the floor.
On the floor.
And that could happen at any moment. So there's a timing issue. And what Michael Salmon has done at the LAX roundtable, he's spoken with everybody. They're going to put this item on their agenda, but individually, mayors and different county leaders are going to reach out to their senators already to speak up about these bills and to do some advocacy. So I've shared the input that Senator Schumer has received from one of the large organizations. Yeah, Queen's Quiet Skies.
Right.
It recognizes the great work that the FAA has been trying to do so far the last year, but where there are areas that there could be improvement. So there would not be any inconsistency in doing advocacy. Let's say our congresspeople oppose privatization, because that's not in the Senate bill. And the Senate is actually what's probably going to happen. And so that is the real opportunity. So I would just make sure that, you know, we as individuals, perhaps individual members and people who have a real concern for this, and certainly members of the select committee who have, you know, worked on this so hard, might have input to Senator Feinstein and Harris about what would be a positive outcome of which they could speak on the floor, and to band together with Schumer and other senators who want to do something.
So if it's a time-sensitive issue, I don't understand. If LAX is only going to bring it up
For the House, for the congressional.
Oh, in September?
Yeah.
Okay, but for the Senate bill, if how time sensitive is it? I mean, we can't hurry up and, you know.
Well, the Senate's going to be in session 2 weeks longer than they were going to be.
And they announced last night on the news that this is one of their priority bills.
Right.
So they
Oh, really?
Yeah. From Kentucky, he said, well, this is one of the 5 things we've got to get done.
So,
So is it possible for us to put together a letter from the roundtable?
well, you'd have to get it to CCAG.
You have to get
it tonight. I don't know if you can do that.
To CCAG, not the roundtable.
Oh,
You've got,
I've got the, yeah.
you've got them.
Sorry. Got them wrong.
Yeah, we're
Got 'em
doing
wrong.
CCAG tonight.
Got them wrong. Got them wrong. The other airport part
That's right.
is part of CCAG. This airport part is not
Not
part of
That's
CCAG.
right.
Sorry.
Yeah. So
I get my oversight ones mixed.
Yeah.
I think that Michael Salmon has done work already with Senator Feinstein's staff, and they said that they could reach out to Kamala Harris.
Mhm.
And so even if it's not a roundtable decision, I think that 4 or 5 leaders of the region that could make a call and say, this matters greatly to X amount of people in my area or whatever. The issue is, what do you want to tell them, right?
Right.
Well, that's exactly. And if we're going to
Still
speak
that.
as the chair of the roundtable or the chair of the legislative committee, we've got to have the chair of the roundtable.
Comment.
It has to be, it has to be approved by the board. I can't just say, you know,
Yeah.
I want this and this and this.
Yeah.
So, and we're not meeting until August 2nd.
And why that's the ideal, you as an elected member of your community can
Can
communicate.
communicate to you.
And we can have a similar message from Pacifica.
Not really.
No, not really. I
Not
can't
really.
speak as the council.
No, not representing
Yeah.
the board, but you as an individual can
As an
communicate.
individual, but not as the mayor.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
And to that point, I provided the same information to Linda Wolin, who unfortunately can't join us till 11, but to speak from Supervisor Pines and the county manager's office.
Yeah.
That maybe also is something we can leverage too. So she, we'll sync up with her, or, you know, if she calls in here, she can give us her take from that.
And who is that?
Linda Wallen.
Linda Wallen.
Legislative aide to Supervisor Pine.
Again, Supervisor Pine can't speak on behalf of San Mateo County Board of Supervisors without the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors agreeing to what he's going to say.
Supervisor Pine can communicate
But it,
directly with
Yeah.
Senator Feinstein's office.
we do that.
So Kathleen, walk me through that process. If an elected official notifies it on their own, like Janet Borgens from Redwood City Council, I were to contact your office and say, I really like this piece of legislation, I like these pieces in it, whatever, I like this context. What does that look like? Does it look like I'm representing myself or my council?
No, it looks like you're representing your council.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I mean, yeah. I mean, honestly, it would get more attention if it came from Janet Borgens than Janet Smith of Redwood City, you know.
And there's
it would get looked at more, you know.
Okay.
But that's the point, because you all are leaders in your communities, regardless, you know, even if you were not on the council day after tomorrow, you would still have your name recognition, your reputation in the community, and you still would have some cachet, regardless of having the title or not. Because
So your office would take the call.
What?
I said your office would take our call.
Well, I think that the
Oh, I have to say, believe me, we take everyone's call. We absolutely take everyone's call. And I can assure you that we take their call and we listen to them. Everyone.
So I think the key thing would be to put together
Deborah.
a short one paragraph of these are the key things that we're concerned about, or that we would like you to consider, and that we all can agree on without the whole bill being something we agree on, because I'm sure there are pieces in that bill that I disagree with.
Yes.
And that we could collectively put forth to the senators and suggest that those things also be, I mean, it's like this, but it has to be in our terms. So there are some key things in here that are the same, but there are some that are not. And so how long would that take? Today? Next hour?
Well, that would take us putting our heads together for the next hour, and then should we notify the rest of the roundtable without having a Brown Act violation?
And I don't know how you do that.
Through our staff committee, through our staff,
To report out on what.
to report out,
You're
to
perfectly
report
okay with
out,
that.
and
That's a report.
Say your parking.
yes,
Want to tell me where your car is?
I can do it. James?
Or we could report out, just like anything else that we, disseminate as any information that comes in, it's just the decision part of the matter. So in order to get the blessing of the entire board, we're going to have to wait till August 2nd.
Right.
Or have a special meeting, which
That's nearly
you're asking a lot
That's
of why to
almost
do that.
impossible,
As a matter of fact, August is always a little dicey, so,
Right, yeah.
but it's on the
We're-
book, so.
Yeah, we're darkened.
So the only thing that I can suggest, if it's coming from the roundtable, is that we can certainly start wrapping up and providing as a heads up, this is coming in your packet. And then be ready on August 2nd to.
It sounds like we're going to miss the window if Ann's correct, though.
Yeah, that's the only.
No, it's 2 weeks after that. Again, look, they're leaving in the middle of August. Their number one thing is going to be the healthcare bill.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's,
It is going
We
to
have-
take
we have
that
a
is
couple
absolutely, well, I don't know, but I mean, they're going full up on the healthcare
Sure.
bill. And there are a couple of other things that, there's some pretty dicey things with, North Street's happening,
Yeah.
And what I heard, this is Ann from Millbrae, what I heard on one of the talking shows yesterday was Mitch McConnell saying that, yes, this Russia thing is happening, but we have these things, and he listed off 5, and one of them was the reauthorization of the FAA. So And I can't even remember what the
Okay.
other 3 or 4 were, but it was clearly something.
Okay.
I think it was also because they've also got that thing called the budget.
Yes.
You know, so they've got another thing to keep the government running too.
And they're not looking at the FAA reauthorization as a keep our constituents happy regarding noise bill.
We
No,
gather.
it's
They need
funny.
we gather.
They may,
Okay, like one person at a time.
Early.
They
Okay.
may just slam dunk it just to get it.
off the
Yeah.
calendar.
So I think the best plan is to put together, have staff, work on a short thing and prepare for the August 2nd, and then everybody be prepared to approve it so that we can at least get it up. Say, in light of this bill, please think about these points as you're considering the whole bill.
And do we know what those points are? This is Janet. Hold on, Ann. So that's
That's the point.
yeah, yeah. Okay, Ann?
I just,
And then you.
doesn't the county have a lobbyist back in Washington? I know when I worked with the city of San Jose, we had a lobbyist that I would deal directly with on my issues. But I just keep that in mind that we should at least have one other voice who can help us. Maybe we need to reach out for that.
James, do you have an answer? What do you vote?
Don't, but that's where I was hoping Linda Wallen might be able to chime in.
Linda
And
Wallen?
it could be because we have such a great set of legislators that it's not been high on the county list.
How is direction given to the lobbyists, though, through the board?
Right.
Through action of the board.
Okay.
I'm just going to share that a little bit of background on the document I provided. Janet McEnany is a federal judge in the New York area.
Could you say your name, who's speaking, so everybody knows?
Jennifer Landis,
No,
member
you're-
of the public.
Jennifer speaking.
Yeah. And she founded this informal national forum of advocacy groups or grassroots groups a long time ago. We did it together with, actually, John is here as well. And a lot of what's in this document reflects what many communities around the country have already expressed through various discussions in our forum. So it's not just Queen's Quiet Skies, but it really reflects a lot of our voices. And so I hope it's helpful in terms of developing.
It certainly could be the basis.
I was just going to say there are some really good things. This is Janet speaking. There's some really good things in here that talk about public health studies, and so it does take in focused on noise resulting and public health studies. So you've kind of got a broad base here.
And what Janet mentioned.
Jennifer, go ahead.
Jennifer, again, she said very clearly at the top, thank you, there are gaps in emissions. And she said, these are all the great things, but I want to say we need some specifics. And towards the end, she starts listing some specifics.
Right.
And I think that's where all of you can really provide a lot of guidance and help. So thank you.
And you're talking about this Queen's Quiet Skies report. Right. So those specifics for those of you on the phone that don't have it in front of you, she has 3, 4, 5, 6 specifics that are listed.
Here, I'll send it to whoever wants it. If I'll send it to you, and you can send it to on that phone. Is that right?
This thing that we're looking at?
Okay, does everybody see it? Does everyone see it?
Right now, everyone's seeing that.
Okay, good. All right, good. I just want to make sure that we.
This is Harvey.
I'm sorry.
Hi.
I'm sorry, Harvey.
The City Council of Half Moon Bay is going to consider at the next Tuesday meeting sending a letter to Congresswoman Spear requesting action in general terms. And there's been a petition, at least 400 co-signers have signed. So that's coming up, and I will certainly look at this Queen's Quiet Skies and see if we can incorporate some of these ideas in this letter that we're going to approve on Tuesday.
I have an idea.
Okay. Anybody else?
So I have an idea.
And you are?
I'm Elizabeth Lewis, and I've got. So,
She just got back in the room, sorry.
So the roundtable has approved our response to the FAA, right? So everything we want is really embedded in that document in some shape or form. So why can't we
Extrapolate some of that out.
and, I mean, are we going to try to reinvent the wheel here or what?
I'm glad
That's
you
a
got my
really
share of that.
good, yes.
Well, that is consistent with, this is what we've been working on, this is what we've worked with our congressmen on. We are now communicating it to you, our senators, and we hope you keep this in mind when you look at this bill, rather than looking at this bill and coming up with a response to this bill, which might take another action.
Exactly.
Good, Ann?
That was Deborah.
Ann from Millbrae. I agree. I think everything's in there. I think what might be missing is the request to support health studies so that there's additional data. I don't think we talked about health studies in our comments to the event.
I thought
It's,
All we ever talked
well,
No, we talked
it
about health
talks
effects, but not the request for health studies and being consistent with NEPA evaluation process, things like that.
well,
But I think it's a great place to start because we should be able to, we voted on that. We should all be able to comfortably speak with whatever hats we're wearing.
Also, Jennifer Landsman, member of the public, the Select Committee of South Bay Arrivals had some really great process issues. The metric, which I think for another day, that's what is here. It's also here, supplemental metrics and so forth. So that is a big item. There was the metric and something else at a national level, sorry, but that's a big one. And you might want to just use both the roundtable and the Select Committee.
as a representative of the Select Committee.
there you go.
You know, and Ann Wenger is on, she was the lead representative who's also on the roundtable. I think that there should be a way for us to put something together that we don't need to have the whole body vote on. That would suffice and get the attention of our senators.
Kathleen, hold on. Kathleen, did you have a weigh in on that?
I think Elizabeth's idea to use language from the roundtable's response is inspired. I think that gives you great leeway, and there's as Elizabeth said, there's so much in there in the introductory and the overarching concerns that could be cited for much of this. And I do believe I don't have it in front of me, but I do believe we touched on health issues in there as well. So I think, so I think Elizabeth is on a roll.
Sue? Yeah, Degree here from Pacifica. So I'm still concerned every time we start talking about studies for health. It's like, I worry about that. I'm not going to go against asking for it, I don't think. But we have so many other things that would result in alleviating the noise impacts that I worry that a request for studying noise impacts is going to take the whole subject matter and put it on hold while we get these additional studies. I think the noise is impacting people. There's no doubt about it. I don't know why we need, but anyway, that's where I am on that.
So this is Elizabeth, and I've just opened our roundtable. And James has it on the thing here. So you're one step ahead of me. So
the second paragraph, I think,
this,
where it starts.
aircraft noise as a health issue. So these are our overarching concerns, and if we not send the entire thing, but just take something like this, the overarching concerns, and I would say that would kind of cover our overarching concerns, because the rest of the attachments are the executive working outline, technical discussion. Go ahead.
How long is that? Just that part?
Page 1.
It's like 3 pages, I think. 4. It's 3.5 pages.
I would say that would be the what you use as it is, because if you start pulling
Oh,
from
yeah.
it, it becomes just that one thing.
Right.
This
Yeah,
is
so that was the summary.
These are the overarching concerns, and that's what you use.
Yeah, that's it.
And that was Deborah speaking.
It's in bolded.
Yes. Ann, did you have a comment?
I'm happy with this. I have one comment. I believe because we thought we couldn't, we never asked for, I'm losing my word, curfew. Because we've always been told we can't have a curfew at SFO, and that's not in here. So can we ask for consideration of curfew?
I have a question on that.
Okay, hold on. This is, okay. So Ann had a question and Deborah's going to make a comment. Go ahead.
This is a two-finger on the curfew. I, as one who flies out of there like almost every week, it would be darn difficult from my point of view to put a curfew on that airport if what are you going to do about all these flights that get delayed and, you're going to stop them so that they can't come in that day? And
So
my
let's say,
understanding of these flights that take off between 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning are largely Pacific Islanders, not all, but largely that, and it's because the airports in those countries have a curfew. So those flights could leave at a different time out of SFO. It's not like there's no room for them.
okay, so
But they go to China in an airport that has a curfew.
okay, so what we're going to do is that's going to be a conversation we're going to have because I think it's off of from this because we could go all day on that one. Okay, that's a whole different conversation. But let's put that on for conversation.
Well,
Sorry, this is Ara from the noise office here. Bert had stepped away to another meeting, so I'm taking his part over here on the meeting. Regarding about the curfew, don't forget that this was implemented from Congress in 1990 with the Airport Noise Capacity Act. So that was kind of like a national level that they put in there where they said airports that don't have curfews are unable to enact one. So, in terms of trying to get SFO for a curfew, you're probably looking at Congress trying to say, hey, we want to be able to allow all airports in the U.S. that want a curfew to now get one. So that will probably mean kind of a big challenge in a sense, right? Because you would want to be taking it and kind of having them change that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that explanation. We'll have that conversation at a different time. I don't think it belongs to today, but it's a good conversation to have. So thank you for that.
Just so that we all know, it's not something just for those cities that are right next to the airport. Those flights that I've heard a lot of you complain about are the ones that are coming over in the middle of the night because they can land in the middle of the night. So it would be your nighttime noise in Woodside, Portola Valley, Mountain View.
anyway.
Yeah, so we're gonna put that on for another discussion. But yes, we'll have that discussion. Thank you, Ann. All right. So any more on did we come to an agreement that we're going to take that?
A nice cover letter and attach that, and off it goes.
And I think it should.
Are we good? Are we good?
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
good.
So Elizabeth will take the lead on the cover letter, and then she'll work with me, and we'll pop that
Send
in.
that off right away.
Okay, so that's an action item that we're going to put down. Thank you for that.
Before the end of the week, we'll do it.
Before end of the week.
Yeah, because we've got other.
Deborah, you had a
And
comment?
I might suggest that once you have that you send that to the LA one and the Queens one and whoever else is doing it, say this is what we've done.
And
Yeah.
we'll send it off to all of our roundtable members also.
Yes.
Okay?
Perfect. Okay, let's move on to the next one, and that was, I think we've kind of taken all these, and I think we're at outreach with other aviation noise groups. Is that what we are now, or did
Yeah.
we take that in?
So
Okay.
what other aviation noise groups should we be? reaching out to?
So I think as many as we can, but I would definitely talk about, all of California, and then just seriously, I think we need to find out what everyone else is doing.
Can we ask our consultant, because he's a national organization and they're in touch with
Mr.
the
Cook?
key people. Justin,
Yes, I'm here.
weigh in on this for us, please.
Sure. Well, I actually attend both. I attended the LAX roundtable last night, and I usually attend. And I'm also the technical acoustical engineer on the San Diego roundtable. So I think that both of those would be worthwhile, interacting with them and maybe attending their meetings and vice versa. they have similar issues and concerns, and so I think those would be a really good start to doing that.
Sue, this is Degree from Pacifica. So my concern really is national because I have several reasons. But so are you familiar with national? And my second question was, whatever way we go, is there a way through those roundtables to connect with active grassroots groups in that area so that those grassroots organizations can be alert to everything?
I think so. I think we're also involved with BWI's roundtable, and
what is BWI, please?
thank you. It's Baltimore, Maryland, and Charlotte as well. Charlotte was looking into starting a new roundtable. So these two various other roundtables could be looked into, and I don't see any issues with reaching out to the grassroots organizations as well.
I know Queens had they've got their organization going. Are you familiar with anything in the Queens area, New York?
Well, we're involved with the Part 150 study for the Port Authority, and that's going through a whole separate process with public meetings and various things. So we could share information regarding with what's going on with that and them creating their noise compatibility plan.
Okay. Arizona, what did Phoenix end up doing? Do they have a noise roundtable?
I'm not completely certain on that, and what has gone on since things have changed, but I could look into that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's a great start. How
about Seattle?
Not that I'm aware of that they have anything.
Yeah.
Portland has their own meetings as well. I've attended a couple times, but I could look into that as well.
That would be helpful. That'd be helpful.
John, Minneapolis has an active group as well.
John?
Zweig.
Okay.
O'Hara. Yeah.
O'Hara.
I was just going to,
Name?
Yeah, Jennifer Landesman. I was going to suggest that a really good start would be to have a comprehensive list of everyone in California, because we are doing outreach to senators and everyone, and we don't have a real, I've given up on the idea that we're all going to agree on everything.
Right.
And so, but there are some top policy issues which I think we all agree on. And for that, I think that we really should have a unified state voice also. And so all of these other groups around the country are, there are many, there are dozens, and in all of the areas you've mentioned. And sometimes it's not even a group. It's somebody like Michael Saltman, UCLA professor, who's got extensive experience working with the city, but happens to now have taken an interest in this and is doing this sort of work. So, and one of the other issues is that sometimes people are doing stuff and then people feel left out of the process. And so if we don't have our own state and local and even Bay Area unified voice of what are the groups working and how are we unifying with the grassroots or organize, for example, I think that the most important thing that could happen is if SFO, Oakland, SJC, and the Metroplex system have some sort of body that, because there's a backup plan to all this. They can't do this at the legislative level. There's a lot that all of us can do.
That's a good point.
That's a good point. That is.
Point.
Yeah.
And then if we can solidify that, then we can grow.
And we can grow from there. I like
That's
that.
leadership for the rest of the country.
So who are those other, and is it something that we should be attending? Should we be going to there?
Well, let's just think about our immediate area here. We've got San Francisco, we've got Oakland, we've got San Jose, we've got Sacramento, I mean, and then further south, San Diego, Los Angeles.
The new expanding airport in Santa Rosa, not Santa Rosa, Rohnert Park.
Yeah, Orange County. Is it expanding?
Yeah, they're adding more jet flights, and one of the new techie airplane companies.
For fair?
Not sure, but
They can have them.
yeah, so that airport as a small region is going to be growing too.
Anyway, so we've got a list, and it'll take us some time to connect with all of those people, and I think that
So we can definitely,
small bites might work better for our digestive system.
so how about if I research where those are, you know, who exactly when they meet?
Yeah.
Because that's got to be.
We have grassroots folks that'll help with all this research.
Jennifer.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I'm
Go.
working with groups. The single biggest issue with all of the groups that are in the forum is data.
Right.
You know, data analysis. And so if I would put a nomenclature, I would just say use the Metroplex, because the Metroplex is a nomenclature that the FAA has used. And it's a systematic issue. As we've learned, every bone is connected to another bone. And so the Metroplex and the data has to be really at that level, because, and I'm going to add that one of the groups we really need to connect with, and I'm going to send, I think I just sent James an email on the notes from the UC symposium, because the Next Gen Advisory Committee is that group that is setting a lot of policy issues for Next Gen. So I would consider everything that the NAC has identified, work with their terminology and with what they're doing, because that's the industry. And then look at our issues as a Metroplex so we can get all the voices in the Metroplex and talk about things like what to do about data. Because I don't think we need 10 different consultants doing a study of this little part, a study of this little part, because data, it can be done at once. You know, it's relatively easy. So there could be a local body that is set up, that is independent, and I'll name the model in France. They have a Next Gen program called César, and they have a group called ACNUSA, which I won't say it's a big French name, but they have a group that guides Next Gen implementation policy and data. And they have a really great board. So that's sort of a model that we might look at as a region and as a state. So.
Okay, that's another.
You're off to Paris.
Off to Paris, yes. You need someone to go with you. You need someone to go with you. All right, so that's our outreach with other aviation noise groups. I think I'll do an action item to just kind of get a list of those.
Okay.
I'm sure they're not.
And we're thinking groups that are both roundtables and grassroots in California.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right, let's go on to number 5 in our agenda, discussion airline outreach regarding equipment upgrades and public relations campaign. What is that?
Probably the
Okay.
47 is going out.
Yes.
You get it, yeah.
And the vortex generator,
Yeah.
the vortex.
Yeah, and I think the other part of that had to do, and I think when we had our pre-meeting, I think what we talked about was
Just keeping up to date with what modern things airlines are doing or not.
Or not doing. And we've been told they get awards and presentations for being good. Well, I think.
So can I ask
Yes.
a question?
Yes.
How does this relate to our legislative committee? Is there legislation being written that would require this, that we need to know about? I mean, we can sit and discuss all of this ad nauseum, but if it doesn't pertain to our committee scope, which is to look at legislation, how we can influence legislation from Congress or the Senate, either get them to, look at current legislation and figure out what's doing that. I don't see how that really.
I think this is
Yeah.
I agree, this is a great
Yeah.
item for the entire roundtable.
For the entire roundtable.
And
Okay.
Janet's idea, mentioning that right now
Yeah.
we do have some awards, but they're done at a level that doesn't generate much
Doesn't generate much
community
community.
noise, and so it might
I think
be
it was
something
our
we could look at
conversation
to
that we had.
bring it up a level.
Well, I think too, part of the history, if I may, is how are airlines choosing to upgrade, and are they including noise? Or has Congress or whatever entity, I would assume that would be it, said you must modernize your airlines within, is there a deadline?
Is there a policy?
Well, I guess
That
we
already
should just
happened.
research the congressional bills and legislation.
So, and, Ara, if you know a little bit more about ANCA, feel free to jump in, but I believe that was kind of the impetus of that Airline Capacity Act of 1990. The agreement is airlines needed to have upgraded to a much quieter equipment, but the trade-off is that the airports that did not have curfews, the government was not going to get involved with that. So there was some trade-offs in order to get the airlines to expedite getting quieter equipment on board at that point. So
That's exactly right. So if we want to address that again, we have to find what we're willing to give up, apparently.
Well, with airplanes here, you're looking at not necessarily just FAA. You're looking at ICAO, which is the International Aviation Board. I can't right now remember the exact civil aviation organization, and they look at based on airplane noise by what they refer to as stage. So I think right now we are at stage 4, I think in the U.S., and I think Europe is going to stage 5, and that's based off literally like how quiet the types of airplanes are out there. So that's kind of how airports are regulated in terms of the airplanes that are allowed to operate. So in the U.S., we're at stage 4, which is the current fleet of aviation aircraft. Of course, the newer ones are coming out. The manufacturers are aiming to get those up to the stage 5 requirements. But of course now, don't forget in terms of how quickly an airline can replace a fleet is all based off how quickly a manufacturer can produce an aircraft. So even though like an airline can say, we're going to get 30 new airplanes, and they place an order today, based on the timeline that the manufacturer has, they're probably not going to be seeing those airplanes for about 2 to 3 years. So you also have that lag time as well.
Okay, so it sounds like it's something. Go ahead.
This is John Zweig.
John?
Yeah, ANCA did require an upgrade to stage 4, but what wasn't envisioned was in the number of flights. And that's going to continue to increase.
Okay, so
unless
that's
there's some upper limit placed on it.
different conversation. Go ahead.
What happens
Deborah.
when the, say United gets rid of its 747s by the end of the year, which it plans to do? Those are not just going away. They're going to go to somebody. So are those airlines precluded from flying in, or?
Well, most likely they're going to storage.
They're going to storage? They're not
And
going
be
to
used
go
for
like
parts.
FedEx.
If I may geek out for a moment, I was actually taking a road trip during Memorial Day, and in Victorville, there's a logistics center point for storage. Decided to take a peek around, and there was already the United 74s already parked out there. So, but I mean, some of them can be leased to other airlines.
Yeah. I mean, that's my expectation.
But my understanding is they're pretty much all going to storage.
The 747 worldwide is actually seeing a decrease in terms of the usage because it's the 4 engines, so it burns more fuel. A lot of carriers are getting rid of their fleets. Of course, British Airways still has theirs, and of course, United and Delta are going to be getting rid of theirs this year. But in terms of other carriers picking those up, that might be harder now because that airplane for the secondhand carriers might be too big of an aircraft for the inventory. So the 747s, unless it's for cargo operations, as a passenger variant, is kind of on a worldwide downward spiral heading out.
Is there just to follow on that?
Okay, follow up on this.
When you mentioned the not passenger flights, but cargo,
Cargo.
are they all under the same rules? or not?
And what do you mean by rules?
Noise rules.
They are, but you know, most of the times though, cargo operations tend to occur during nighttime hours.
Right.
And I mean, that's just kind of how we, in terms of society, operate, right? Because we want to FedEx something to somebody overnight. So therefore, that's when you're going to get those planes. The majority of flights overnight are cargo operations.
Here we go.
So do they have the same rules as like if an airport has or doesn't have a curfew like San Francisco and FedEx uses or whoever uses, can they fly them all night long if they want to?
They could. There's no restrictions in terms of aircraft operations. Oakland has a FedEx, I guess like a mini hub. And about like the 3 o'clock in the morning hour, you'll see a lot of departures out of Oakland as they're heading back to other destinations. So luckily here in San Francisco, we have a minimal cargo operations, but in the Bay Area, Oakland is the big one.
Okay, Jennifer and then Ann.
Okay, so I put this to you because you're the legislator, but I did mention this to the FAA when the first time they came here. ANCA was not created with NextGen in mind. All of the system that we have right now is 50 years ago for planes that didn't even fly back then and for different airspace sharing rules. Everything is different. So, the idea that they have quieter planes when the planes are flying lower and more concentrated doesn't do anything for noise. So I think it needs to be completely revisited. Now, I wish Bert was here because one area of research is the fact that some of the planes apparently the newer planes fly more efficiently at lower altitude. Now that's really scary that they have created planes and they're making newer planes in order to fly lower. So that's inappropriate. And here we are fighting for steeper glide slopes. So I would like that I hope that could be in the work plan for the roundtable or for just a lot of research on that. And I do think that ANCA needs to be completely revisited on the basis of NextGen. So thank you.
Okay, so for Ann, you had a question.
Ann from Millbrae. Going back to legislation, are we only responding to legislation somebody else has written, or are we suggesting legislation? And I say that because if it is true that Europe has some mechanism to push airlines to go to stage 5, what are we doing in the U.S. to push for airlines to go to stage 5 sooner rather than later, regardless of actual availability of planes? So in my field, we have largely used, especially in source reduction of solid waste issues, used the German model for quite a few things. And it has kicked off product stewardship legislation throughout the U.S. So can we learn from European legislation? And I'm assuming most of this is going to come from Europe, but it might also be coming from China. What legislation are they doing to push their airlines, including their cargo carriers, to get to the quieter planes? In which case, can we suggest that legislation? And again, I'm showing my activist side of that. So rather than wait for that, let's use what Europe has done, look at what Europe has done, and see what we can do. Because we know we've got 3 airlines in San Francisco that are moving quickly. What is it? Lufthansa, Air France, and United that are putting in the vortex generators. But we haven't heard what the other ones, or vortex device, but we haven't heard how the other airlines that fly Airbus are doing, and I don't have that at the top of my head. But that's something, couldn't we be pushing for? That would, again, that's not a Millbrae thing per se, that's something that will help all the communities that are hearing at least the sound.
So, James, can we put that on agenda because that's a study that I think possibly we can look at, but I don't think we can.
Or are we talking about the vortex generator or more of the?
Well, I think we're talking about all airplanes, but for example, going back to how we use rewards to stimulate positive behavior, we've got 3 airlines who have committed to putting in the vortex as quickly as they can as the gas tanks have to be replaced. So, we're not demanding them suddenly take their fleet offline and do this work, but look at what they're doing and get the other airlines to do that. And then how many I hope we have no stage 3s anymore. Everything's a stage 4?
Yeah, I believe so. But
what about cargo?
So James?
I couldn't tell you, but to circle back as a legislative item, are we talking about maybe brainstorming potential ways or potential legislation to push or the legislators to consider similar to what ANCA is as a new thing?
And we, in my model, is most of our businesses in Silicon Valley do business throughout the world. So when a different country stimulates, sorry guys, an environmental regulation, it stimulates our businesses. They often are complying to Europe standards decades before they're complying to that same rule in the U.S. Greener packaging is one example. They've been doing these design for repairability. We're doing it in Europe because Europe required it, Germany required it well before we've ever gotten the ability to get it for all the states here. So why don't we use that same kind of model in getting quieter planes? And we push it.
James, where do you see us with that, dude?
Here, but in order to sort of tie it back as legislation of some sort, I'm guessing we would maybe draft up something that we can put forth to our Congress members to utilize that as some sort of, again, I keep going back to the example of the ANCA just because that, you know, that most simplistic way I can probably put it is it made the requirement to utilize, so sort of maybe proposing to our Congress representatives.
Update ANCA.
Update.
Yeah, and every airline that flies into Europe that flies here is already gearing up for that. They're just not going to bring the planes here until we require them.
And to, I mean, actually, I got to credit Sue for this because I bringing back the Legislative Subcommittee because every time we had talked about ANCA in Congress, you know, being a congressional item and went through that whole process of the legislative thing, I think that's where, you know, so I think we could agendize that as future potential legislation action for modernizing equipment.
Yeah, in the broad heading of update ANCA to reflect the new next gen and the airplane. Just it's an old document, and they need to look at how they can revise it and update it to meet our needs currently and desires.
Hold on, I have one ahead of you, honey.
Okay.
Give your name,
please. Lydia from Palo Alto, and actually, Anne from Millbrae had mentioned some of the things I wanted to say, so I'll pass.
Okay. Jennifer?
I really like your point, Jennifer, about the broader heading of updating ANCA. And I would like to really get out of this making the planes quieter thing, to keep pushing that one, because I've been meeting people who make planes and they're really working hard to making those planes quieter, but they are the first ones to tell you it's not going to happen for another 30 years. In the meantime, we have people who are really hurting. So I think the urgent matter here is to address what John brought up, is the frequency matter, which is driving people crazy, and the low frequency noise that is not being addressed at all. So if there is an update to ANCA, it has to be paired with what even the industry recognizes, these whole issues of focus, noise, and so forth. So I would always pair it with some effort to address low frequency noise, because if the planes are, you know, that's what's getting us. Frequent and lower is really bad.
Okay.
So I'm still anxious about what is our definition and what can we do about soon? Getting relief from the noise soon. What is it going to take for us? Because it sounds to me like everybody and his brother can do something for their efficiency or whatever, and we get stuck with noise. So what can we become activists about? How do we do it? When I walk out of here, when I walk out in August, am I going to have nothing to say except that we're doing lots of things, and in 10 years, we'll have a result. Or even in 3 years, we'll have a result. I think I will collapse on the ground.
I think with it's John. Again, in answer to that, I think the thing that could be done soonest would be dispersal or diffusion as opposed to focusing of paths. We would have to figure out some way to for the FAA to use the marvelous accuracy of NextGen to spread out the flights. What they're saying now is that far fewer people are exposed to high levels of noise, and that's really true.
Yes.
But if you're one of those poor suckers who's under that path,
You get it all.
you get it all.
And they have proof and studies about this?
Oh, they advertise it. Airlines for
Nothing.
America had
I don't
this graph.
believe a word of it.
But Airlines for America showed this graph that total noise, total number of flights goes up, and the total number of people exposed to noise, they didn't say how much, goes
Yeah.
down. And that's a feature. It's a bug if you're underneath that noise. So the thing that they could do soon would be to disperse the flights so not everybody, so that everybody who gets benefit from the airport
Well, I have
pays
heard
part
of
of the
that.
noise cost.
Yeah. Spread them
That-
out.
That could be
Spread 'em
done
out.
within months to a couple of years.
Well,
Okay,
that,
that's something to look into.
and that is, what is the word I want? That is possible. I mean, it's
Yes,
not
it's
like they're going
possible.
to say you can't do that because the next gen operation can't go in
I think-
reverse or anything.
Go.
I just want to kind of bring us
Bring it back in. Yes.
to, I hear your frustration. I understand it. We, as a body, responded to the FAA. We cannot do anything until we hear back from them. I mean, we really can't. We could go lay down on the tarmac or something in San Francisco Airport. And if you want to try to do that, to, make fewer landings, that would be an activism. But as this body, as the roundtable, we have done everything that we can at this point. But what we're, as the legislative committee, what we're trying to do is inspire our, higher elected, the Congress, the senators, to listen to us, who have jurisdiction over the FAA.
Right.
But the FAA has to respond to us. And there was somebody at a public meeting that said to me, he heard from inside FAA that we weren't going to hear anything back until September.
No, I'm not worried about
And
FAA. Truthfully, I'm not caring at all about
it's
FAA.
the FAA that is creating all of this because they've got all the rules. But Congress can
Yeah, sure. Well, that's why I wanted
that's,
the
I think,
subcommittee.
what we're trying to do as the legislative committee.
But within that, how are we going to get?
And
to
that's
soon?
not a soon thing.
Well,
It's
What
not.
is your definition of
Hold
soon?
on, Dan, and then.
Well, I guess what's your definition of soon?
Yeah.
I can't directly respond to Sue's everything, but it's more that we know our legislators are with us.
Yes.
So what we have to do is reach out. I think what you've been saying, we've got to reach out with the other legislators, and wherever possible, we have to find Republican legislators who are going to care about this. So it seems probably outside of Jane's job description, but we need to be looking at those other ones. So, it's like, why bother here in California? Why bother with ours? They're with us. We need to look outside of us and find new partners.
And the list of congressional people that had signed on to the caucus,
Yes.
I think they're all
quiet
Democrats.
guys.
But if we could find some,
No,
were there some Republicans?
There were some Republicans in there.
I mean, that would be good.
No.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unless Republicans don't live in the airplane flight. You won't be able to find Republicans.
I think it's probably more, do they live near a major airport or do they not? Do they cover a jurisdiction near an airport or not?
Okay, wait a minute. Jennifer was, and then Jennifer.
So, yeah, go
Okay.
ahead. And James, I have that statistic, if you could pull it up. I just emailed it to you and you go first.
So that's a very interesting point because cities are Democratic. I mean,
Rural areas.
statistically, cities are Democratic. They live in the denser areas and the Republicans are in the rural
Live
areas.
in Woodside, yes.
Rural.
As a
Talking rural, even though we say keep Woodside rural, it's not really rural, I have to tell you.
Not anymore.
So that's an interesting thing. There may not be.
Atlanta, let's look at Atlanta right now, one of the biggest airports, biggest hubs. It's definitely got Republican Congress people.
Republican senators, but
Well, the new woman who just got elected, and that's right. So, I mean, if we could do a little homework, I just don't know how we would do it within our constraints. I know I don't have the bandwidth to
Well, that's
start,
why I say we have.
but maybe the public can help with that.
with this, and we are a nonpartisan
Subcommittee.
Well,
Okay,
we're looking
so-
for anybody, any partners regardless of party.
All right, so Jennifer, and then you didn't, okay.
Yeah, I was just going to say everybody needs to pat themselves on the back because I think the influences of the FAA is really important, and I think a lot of people have done that because I heard Steve May say, you know, we're trying to balance the needs of the transportation system and the needs of the community. So we've gotten there, we've moved the needle. In terms of doing something fast, I think that it's really accountability, which I know the FAA does dislike that word, and everybody dislikes that word. But this statistic is really, it is on the FAA website. It is put forward by the NAC. It is what they got the categorical exclusion based on, which is that as long as there is reduction in noise defined as the number of people exposed, then everything's okay. And so I think that in terms of legislative issues, since we are on this topic, a really big thing is I would just go with one thing to the senators. I would say we would like to make sure that when you have that statistic, you also have the statistics of the people, those 4 people there on the blue at the very right, who, and just by the way, it's not like operations have increased by 35, 40%. You know, I think it's like there's one new arrival and departure overall than compared to the 90s. And I mean, there's a lot of activity, but noise shouldn't be growing with this. In theory, it should be declining. So I would just say that one area of a new area to put on the agenda would be to really redefine noise reduction. Noise reduction is not just reducing the noise of equipment. It's not reducing just the number of people. It has to have a realistic number like that. So I would just say that's the graph that we need to kind of have a counterbalance to.
Well, if you look at the metrics, there is number of people impacted by X amount of noise. And if that number of people goes down, there's a corresponding metric that says 1/10 of those people have a gigantic increase in noise. And so that corresponding metric needs to be included. So that you have to put in the frequency and level. So many people were, you know, there's a third dimension here, or a fourth dimension.
Yeah.
And that, so that this is not such a misleading chart. And that's something that we could do as a, you know, as a data.
Which is huge because as of now, and James was there, we were at the UC Davis Symposium, and when Airlines for America starts their presentation, they say, let's put this into context. This is our strong noise reduction record. Excuse me.
Okay.
Noise should not be free either, by the way.
John, this is an unfair tax. The few people who are exposed to the noise tax, for everybody who gets benefit from the airport. Yeah. And it should be just the opposite. I mean, the number of people exposed should be increasing, and the amount of noise that each person is exposed to should be decreasing. So that, I mean, in the ideal ultimate situation, everybody should get a small amount of noise.
Should be dispersed.
It should be dispersed. This is what they're doing at Gatwick, and I can send you the information about that.
Gatwick, what is that?
Gatwick
Airport out of London.
Airport.
Oh, really? Okay.
This is exactly what they're facing there. And I can send information to James about that.
Okay. James, did you get enough on that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to the next
Actually,
one.
Jenna,
Oh,
before
go
we go,
ahead.
did we agree? I think that someone mentioned the EU model to get to stage 5, and are we going to? Is there someone within our organization that can educate us on how they were able to move that way, whether it was legislatively
Or
or
our
new justice?
MMA.
Yes.
And the question would be, it's got to be an EU
One would think.
regulation.
Sure.
My guess is it's an EU regulation. I don't work in that area, so I'd have to go digging around, but it shouldn't be that hard to find at least their legislation that they
Right.
used.
Bert's representative, can you do that?
We can take a look and see about the stage 5 in Europe versus the stage 4 here in the U.S. We just have to take a look and see. There's a possibility that the U.S. is moving to the stage 5. It's just going to take us a couple years for implementation for that. But we can take a look at it and see.
Thank you.
So I'm still putting that under the update of ANCA next gen.
Sure.
Good.
Discussion in there
I
with a few notes saying, referencing EU regulation, stage 5, so on and so forth.
Good.
That's
Would you include, I've never read anything from ANCA. August is my reading catch-up month. If there's reading that we should be doing, I'm going completely
ANCA.
blank.
James Barry Hurst.
Your
1990.
summer reading list, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be
Our
good.
general plan
Okay,
is
thank
being
you.
released, so I have some time in August.
All right, so is there any more on that? Thank you. Thank you for all the comments. I mean, this was incredible, yes. So public comments on items not on the agenda, and I think we've kind of already added some of those already. So I think we've kind of incorporated some of those in the rest of them. But if we will just do a little recap on the action items, Sue, you were going, Elizabeth, you were going to write the cover letter.
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
Mhm. And so I was looking again at the at our overarching concerns. There's a section that gives details of the nighttime procedures plan, which goes into a lot of bullet points about how to transition to the night hush departure goal behind. I mean, it's very detailed. There's a maybe 20. You know what I'm saying? It gets into some technical things, and I'd like to ask if I could just delete that, because it's more of a procedure.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying?
What my suggestion is, part of your cover letter, you, as cited in our overarching concerns contained in our FAA initiative, and then just include one out of that.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Good.
Okay.
So we're basically citing what's already there, but you're citing what is more relevant for the.
We give pull-outs.
Okay.
Pull-outs more relevant.
All right.
Oh, that's good.
Is that the big Brisbane issue? Night south transition?
I don't
and
know.
Going over to
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of a very verbal group that comes and will be
Yeah.
here in August. So
Yeah. Good.
But I think,
Good.
and I'll let Elizabeth, talk how it wants, but I think it really is most of the first few paragraphs, first
yeah.
page and a half, really.
Good, thank you.
We'll get that done tomorrow and send it out. Okay.
And then I think there are a couple other action items that we had. I just want to make sure we get them. And one was, see if I can find them. I was trying to keep them separate and I didn't. So, the consultant was going to look at the groups
Phoenix and the group.
in Phoenix.
Yeah, but I think as a committee, we said, let's try to take a smaller bite and just really focus on the Metroplex region,
right.
and do that. So we'll pare that down, Justin. So we'll just kind of focus in the California area. And
Not a problem.
okay, good.
Okay.
Thank you.
James, had you listed anything?
It listed, just what we talked about, research groups, California, grassroots roundtables. For next time, an agenda item that kind of captures an update of ANCA, that sort of a proposed legislation that kind of captures revisiting that, and pretty much what you've already indicated. Elizabeth working on draft, working on the letter and capturing the overarching concerns. That's all I got.
And so we'll send it to our immediate senators. Should we expand that to other senators in the state of California? Or
well, there's
sorry.
We should have 3, you're right.
Yeah, don't you think that we should have now?
We should have more, but we don't.
There's only 2. Okay.
Everybody's got 2.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
But would
First,
we
I
want
would
to send,
include
no,
everybody.
along that line, wouldn't you want to send a letter at least to
Yeah.
all the signatories?
I would.
All the people who are signatories to the bill, or
Nor should they.
We don't.
or to the Senator
bill that we're
Schumer,
talking
Senator,
about,
yeah,
yeah.
that group.
Right.
Would it not be, though, the committee,
I would say that you send it to the roundtables of those areas and say, you forwarded to your senators added up that way, because us going into, I mean, from my point of view, when you go to senator from wherever, Washington State, from California, as a Californian, they take it from the other better,
Right.
from their own constituents.
Right.
So I think
Unless
that
they've got
the ideal
Jennifer?
thing,
selling into
or excuse me, Jennifer, the ideal thing is if your input goes to the senators and the staff and see what they think they can do in terms of language for an amendment, because that really needs to be very specific, and to work with Senator Schumer's office, who's already working on this, to band with other senators. I can get names of, through our sort of national forum, what are the other senators working on it? And as a little group, maybe a caucus of senators, come up with something. And that will be more powerful, I think.
Maybe you and I could kind of.
Okay, we'll connect.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Sue, one more
Question,
question?
so I don't remember, in that overview that we're going to do, does that have the fly higher over water? Is that in there?
Well, I'll give you the headline. It's our overarching concerns. Legislation and agency actions. The aircraft noise is a health issue. The FAA mission statement. Increased community role in FAA actions. Maintain current navigation assets. Vectoring for efficiency. Nighttime procedures
Yes.
plan.
right there. They could use like bay and ocean as efficiently as possible in that increased community role.
Mhm.
Or did it move? No, it's in the paragraph titled FAA. Yeah, 4 lanes up in the middle, right after the AGAS.
But anyway, we're kind of constrained, if we're going to do this, to what's in this document, okay? So,
And we need to stay to what we've already passed and
And,
submitted, and yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
If approved.
So
That
just
was
stay over
done
the bay and the
1,000
ocean.
yeah, but not in this manner.
Okay. So do you have a definition you want to give me? Are we talking about any solution, any relief within what amount of time?
I can't answer that.
I want 6 months. All right.
Did you guys hear that on the phone? We want 6
Relief
months.
in 6 months.
We want this done yesterday,
Relief,
okay?
the relief part.
So,
Linda's
And
here now.
to your point, it's very frustrating because we have to go back to our communities
Well, they're
and
suffering now.
they are suffering now. They are suffering. And we hear that every meeting, so.
And that's also your land value, your property value, and
That's
income
disgusting.
value of each area.
All right, is there one more thing and then we're,
Would there be any legislative way of twisting the FAA's arm to come up with that response to the social study?
okay, we want to twist arms now, okay, is that on
That
our?
means that's
What
open.
can Congress do?
So we're due.
Yeah, well, I don't know,
Elizabeth, you
overdue.
said we're led to believe it's September now?
yeah.
oh, I just heard it from somebody at the San Carlos Part 150 study who thinks that he has an inside track with FAA people. And he's not an elected official, but, oh, well, I've heard. And I go, well.
So let's just finish with this agenda before we start having open, yeah, pardon me?
Linda, right?
Yeah, Linda, you want to announce that you're in the room so that
Oh,
everyone's on the
Linda
phone?
Rowland from Supervisor Pine's office. Sorry, I'm late.
Okay, we're glad you're
We're
here.
ready to adjourn.
We're just about ready to.
What she may have in.
Do you have anything you wanted to add to our meeting today, or?
No, I'll ask someone to fill me in.
Okay.
We want solutions in 6 months.
Yeah,
Did hear that? That's, yeah,
I've
that,
heard that before.
that was good timing. That was good timing.
We're doing a lot of good work on surfer as far as I can tell.
Discussion for another
Another
committee.
discussion, yeah. That's what keeps you up at night. That's what keeps you up at night. Any other off-agenda items? James, are you good with what? You're good? Elizabeth?
I'm good.
Sue? I know
6
you're
months.
frustrated. 6 months. Sue agreed. From Pacifica wants 6 months, okay?
Noise resolution.
Noise
of
resolution.
some kind.
Everybody hear that?
Relief.
We heard it.
Okay, thank you to everyone that attended the meeting. Thank you for those who are on the phone. We'll move forward with what we've decided today and
Nice
adjourned.
meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
I might have time.
I'll go have lunch, because
And then I can find out.
Jenna's house for lunch?
So,
Not that far.
anybody who's
away.
sticking around for this afternoon, we're meeting here, not in a
Okay.
different room, so we're gonna be staying here.
We can leave this stuff.
That starts at 1, right?
Yeah.
Help you.
That's a problem with Velcro, right?
It is. It's stuck on me, and I was just gonna stick my computer